There have been times when contestants resorted to shortcuts or even cheated while on the show. But here are some times when chefs messed up badly on Hell's Kitchen. Like this time right here, when a contestant messed up the only thing he was asked to do. Chef Ramsay was so furious that he actually invited him for a special punishment.
That's how shit you be. I want you to taste what you're trying to serve Hell's Kitchen.
When anyone thinks of messing up, they might default to a notorious contestant named Jason Underwood. I mean, there is a reason why Jason is the least favorite contestant on Hell's Kitchen in most polls. Not only did he make sexist jabs, but he had no skill whatsoever. And we saw this right from the first episode of Season 4. During the dinner service, while both teams were ready to get started, Jason was busy pampering himself. When the blue team received their first order, Jason, who was assigned to the appetizer station, was smoking on the patio without any worries. It's like Jason forgot that appetizers went out first.
Jason! What's he doing? Jason!
Chef Ramsay had to frantically go out looking for him because when has that ever happened on the show? This dude was already showing signs of being a dick. And when he finally came back to his station, he dished out the worst possible risotto I've ever seen. If you're wondering what it tasted like, I'll let Bobby Anderson explain that.
It was terrible, terrible, terrible.
Well, that pretty much sums up the disgusting dish Jason sent to the pass. But you know what? This one just lacked seasoning, but what he sent up next was inedible.
The rice is overcooked. Hey you! Come here!
The fact that Jason burnt the risotto pissed Chef Ramsay off, and he made sure to give him a good earful.
I don't want any more embarrassments. I just want to go eat some food!
He definitely deserved a good lashing, but did you see the audacity of this guy? He rolled his eyes when Chef Ramsay was schooling him. That reaction speaks volumes about his foul attitude. Jason too was embarrassed about the situation and wished he was back at home. That wasn't because he goofed up, but because he had to eat the burnt risotto. Yup, that was his punishment. I still wonder how he even survived Hell's Kitchen for a couple of days when all he did was give hell to everyone. The blue team was already in shambles that night with their performance, and the burden was on. Luis Petroza, who was working at the table side, tried his very best to keep the customers happy. However, with no food, how could anyone be happy? With no food going out, Chef Ramsay became very frustrated.
Me!
Much later, thanks to LaRosse Adrenaline, the blue team was finally back on track. And well, Jason eventually found his pace and belted out appetizers that were perfectly cooked. But there seemed to be a problem.
What's the matter?
They're all leaving, Chef.
What?
It looks like the diners were done waiting. Jason said that he felt like $1 million, but that meant nothing if there were still customers left to feed. After the blue team were understandably named losers, Jason claimed that he was better than Bobby. Now, Bobby might have been a poor team captain, but Jason was miserable. There's a huge difference. Knowing how poorly Jason performed on the opening night, I thought it would be Jason's last day. But he wasn't even nominated. This was a decision the team would regret much later into the competition. But this next contestant was riding on the pressure of being ranked in 3rd place when she first appeared on the show. The second time around though, things took a turn for the worse and Chef Ramsay was appalled. You may love her or hate her, but you can't deny that Dana Cohen had one of the most inconsistent performances on Hell's Kitchen. Some viewers even go to the extent of calling her an overrated contestant. While Season 10 was still fair enough, when she came back in Season 17, something seemed to be a little off. To be a bit more specific, her focus was awful. And you could see what I mean in the 11th episode of Season 17 when the red team wanted to redeem themselves after a disastrous service. The red team started off well with the appetizers, but as soon as they moved on to the entrees, problems came left and right. Now, Dana Cohen was working at the meat station, and when Chef Ramsay asked her for an update on the meat, she noticed that the Wellingtons were scorched.
Oh my god. Guys, I have to refire the Wellingtons.
She required 20 minutes for the refire, and for that, Dana asked Chef Ramsay if he could flip to another ticket. Basically, she just wanted to move on to the next ticket while the Wellingtons were cooking. And well, Chef Ramsay surprisingly allowed it. But it's what happened next that made him furious. When Dana sent her lamb to the pass, it came out raw and Ramsay was done giving her chances.
Everyone's walking around like we're just all-stars. We are currently behind.
It was astonishing to see Dana struggling at the meat station because she was so good in Season 10. Back then, she ranked in 3rd place and was even allowed to keep her jacket because of her extraordinary performance. So where did all that passion go? When Dana was on the last ticket, she believed that she had everything under control. However, when she sent the Wellingtons to the pass, this is how they turned out.
Just look at the colour of that beef.
I'm a cook, chef.
Yeah, it is overcooked.
In the hopes of saving her own butt, Dana went back to get some backup. But when she eventually sent her dish to the pass, it came out raw, and this left Chef Ramsay in great dismay.
I don't know where to go.
Come on, Dana.
I don't know where to
Don't
go.
stall us on the last ticket.
Ramsay was actually so disappointed that he sent the entire red team back to the dorms and finished the desserts with sous chef Christina. After a really poor performance, Dana's nomination wasn't much of a shocker. And despite Elise Harris being a strong contender for elimination, Chef Ramsay based all his decisions on performance alone and not personal feelings. Which is why Dana was asked to leave.
First of all, I couldn't wait to bring you back. But unfortunately, today has been one of the worst days you ever had.
Of course, with her talent and skills, she could have gone much farther in the competition. However, it looks like there was an issue. Not with Dana, but her oven. I came across a claim on Reddit where a user had to share some inside information. Apparently, sous chef Christina said that Dana's oven was defective, which is what screwed up her Wellingtons. Now, clearly that wasn't aired as a part of the show. But if that was the case, I think her elimination was totally unfair. There have been worse contestants who were given more chances, and Dana definitely deserved one. What do you think? Was Chef Ramsay even aware of the oven issue, or did Dana just truly screw up? Well, it's not the first time Hell's Kitchen equipment had issues. But you know how when everything else fails, the sous chefs are always there to take charge and save the day. But this next contestant decided to screw up on one of the sous chefs' most important days, their wedding service. And trust me, what was supposed to be a memorable night turned out to be a dreadful one. This happened in season 15 when Hell's Kitchen took on the responsibility of cooking for sous chef Andy's wedding service. I know, definitely not a day to fool around, right? But one contestant failed to receive this important memo. I knew this was going to be a rocky ride right from the appetizer round. But when it came to the entrees, it was nothing short of a disaster. Hassan Musulmani, who was at the meat station, frustrated just about everyone with his performance, and this infuriated Chef Ramsay. If you remember, Hassan was running around like a headless chicken much before the prep even started. Sometime later, when Jared Bobkin then communicated with Hassan about the timing, both of them got started with their orders. However, despite all the communication, they sent chicken that was pink, and Ramsay couldn't believe it.
This is not happening.
What was happening here? Chef Ramsay only wanted the best for sous chef Andy, but it looks like things were gonna go south real soon.
One more mistake, and I am going to kick you all out.
Imagine checking every last detail to perfection and realizing that something as important as food got messed up? That's exactly what the wedding planner was going through.
They just need to regroup,
Okay.
get their heads together.
All right, are they regrouped? Are their heads together?
We hope so.
Well, she definitely had enough reason to worry because only half the guests were being served. And guess what? Even the groom's mother hadn't received any food yet.
Where's our food? Do you mind, Mom? Split it 4 ways. Well, seriously, you think the mother of the bride could get some food around here?
That's how backed up the Red Kitchen was. I don't think there could be any bigger embarrassment than this. So Chef Ramsay dragged the red team into the pantry and whipped them left, right, and center.
Can't do this to me. Who cooked the chicken?
Hassan first took the blame, but also revealed that he had some backup ready. And thankfully, their third attempt was actually accepted. Even though both teams did complete the service, it was nothing like Chef Ramsay had hoped for. Sous Chef Andy deserved better, and Ramsay was embarrassed beyond measure.
I couldn't even look Andy in the eyes. I was that embarrassed.
It looks like Chef Andy didn't make a good guest at Hell's Kitchen. One of the viewers recalled that she actually had to cook her own appetizers in another season. Do you know which one? Help me out in the comments with that, please. Anyway, another user joked about the possibility of Chef Andy having to cook and finish the service of her own wedding. Well, I'm glad things didn't go that bad, and she actually left Hell's Kitchen as a happy bride that night. Actually, I think Chef Ramsay should have known better and never hosted a wedding service here. Because, if you know from experience, the outcome has never been great. What makes me say this though? Do you guys remember the 5th episode of Season 3? That was the first time Hell's Kitchen catered a wedding service. And it went terribly. Now, this next contestant ended up taking on a role she wasn't even assigned to and ended up wrecking her entire team's performance. In the end, everyone was embarrassed, but more so Chef Ramsay. What happened is, like in any other challenge, Ramsay introduced a twist in this wedding service. Both teams were given a time limit of 30 minutes to shop with a budget of $100. And then they had another hour to cook their dishes for the wedding planning challenge. At the start of the challenge, Melissa Firpo turned out to be the self-appointed leader that no one wanted. Out of absolutely nowhere, Melissa took the responsibility of making decisions, and that was her first mistake. All of her decisions were questionable, and I wonder why the rest of the team just went with it. Right from the time of shopping, Melissa suggested that the team use duck as their main dish instead of lamb. Although the red team was concerned about the cooking time limit, they still went along with Melissa's decision.
Is that going to be feasible for all those people for the wedding reception?
They probably didn't want to argue, but this decision was going to cost them heavily. When the red team started to cook their dishes, Melissa started to act all high and mighty.
If anybody has a question, let's just ask me, since that's what the chef's been doing.
There was a time when Julia Williams decided to sear the duck breast, and Melissa just interjected and told her to do something else. She even insulted Bonnie Muirhead by asking Julia not to listen to her.
Supposed to listen to me, not Bonnie.
I'm not sure what kind of leader she wanted to be, but like I said, everything she was doing was wrong. When Julia took out the duck breast from the oven, Melissa oddly placed it back into the oven to keep it warm. Did she forget that she'd cooked the meat even further? In the end, the duck was incredibly overcooked, and the worst part was that Melissa refused to take responsibility for it. What happened next was pretty expected.
It's overdone.
I know, you made it overdone.
I didn't make it overdone. Your job, your station.
The red team sadly didn't have enough time to make another one, and when it was time, this was what Chef Ramsay had to say.
You're standing there acting like some jumped up little cave woman.
Well, I hope that helps her stay grounded, but the damage was already done and the red team was about to face the heat. When Melissa learned that the couple would be judging this dish, she was stunned. She told Chef Ramsay that the red team should just skip the challenge, and what do you think Ramsay said?
This is barely 24 hours before their big day. You are not going to spoil it.
Well, it's way too late to change your mind now, sweetheart. But Chef Ramsay had no idea that the dish was already spoiled. He only realized how bad things were when he served the dish. And at that point, I think the famous chef thought it would have been better if he had just listened to Melissa. Because, well, who expected contestants from Hell's Kitchen, seasoned chefs who made it this far into the competition, to serve something as hideous as this?
Right.
While an embarrassed Chef Ramsay passed the tasting, viewers were quick to judge the dish by the looks of it. One said that the duck looked like a loaf of bread made out of rubber, while another said that Melissa efficiently forced her team into making a rubber duck that they never wanted to. Melissa's poor leadership left Chef Ramsay so embarrassed that he actually had to hide his face behind his hands. He must have been wondering why he didn't eliminate her sooner. But this next contestant screwed up another memorable event for a VIP. And this time, it was a birthday party. Looks like this birthday party wasn't gonna be much of a celebration. And what's even crazier is whose birthday it was. Any guesses? It was Chef Ramsay's daughter Megan's 21st birthday. And well, she wanted to party with style, but what she got was hell. In the 6th episode of the 20th season, Megan's table was split between both teams. The deal was to make sure that all the food was sent out at the same time. With just 2 to 3 mistakes during the appetizer round, both teams finished things off at a good pace. However, during the entrees, Peyton Cooper sank the boat. Peyton was at the meat station with Sam Garman. On the first ticket, one of the steaks they sent up to the pass was rare, and then on the refire, the meat had raw fat on it. That's a really sad start, and it looks like the red team needed to step up their game.
Me, I got 1 medium rare, 1 rare. Come on, back in the pan, hurry up. It's raw white fat, come on, back in the pan.
When the next order for Megan's table came, Peyton was confident about the pad thai since he had cooked noodles before, but it was returned for being bland.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
Let me take care of this.
Thank you very much.
Chef Ramsay was beginning to sense trouble, and he had to check it on time before things blew up, so he said this.
What was that taste like to you?
Nothing.
Who seasoned that?
When Ramsay demanded an answer, not one person spoke up. Finally, the rest of the team threw Peyton under the bus, and he had to own up, leaving Ramsay dismayed. But when Peyton along with 4 others sent a raw lamb to the pass, Chef Ramsay kicked them all out of the kitchen.
With 3 nominees because I'm cutting the fat quickly. All of you, get out!
5 contestants working on 1 order of lamb and it came out raw? That's peak incompetence. However, this next contestant chose to screw around on another important day. This time, it was time for the fashionistas to taste a piece of Hell's Kitchen. I'm talking about season 10 when Hell's Kitchen was geared up to host a fashion night. During the fashion night planning challenge, Chef Ramsay asked both teams to make an appetizer and 2 entree dishes. One would be seafood and the other one would be poultry. Both teams had to follow the instructions given by the fashion designer and create a dish accordingly. Robin Almodovar and Kimmy Willis worked together, and knowing that they were the best of friends, this challenge should have been a breeze. But I was wrong, very wrong. Usually, to impress someone, chefs always go for their favorites, but Robin had other plans. She didn't want to work with the swordfish even though one of the judges loved it, and the reason behind this was so foolish.
Swordfish is like a tuna, and I don't really like cooking with that. That's what he said he liked.
Well, I guess she forgot she was preparing a dish for the judges and not herself. Despite Kimmy's quick reminder, Robin was adamant and pushed for sea bass instead. To make things worse, Robin wanted to serve the sea bass in its natural flavors, so she only used salt and pepper. How do you think that must have turned out? I don't have any hope for this poor fish, but Robin was confident somehow. When Robin presented her dish, Amanda Chi was drawn to the dish because of the color. But Meister, who loves swordfish, wasn't impressed with the presentation. Those are some mixed reactions, right?
I'm drawn to it because of the pink and green at the bottom.
It just needs to be sharper and more precise.
So how is the salt and pepper flavored fish though?
Quite bland.
What about spices?
What about zesty? What about pungent?
I can't believe Robin actually felt insulted after hearing the feedback. Like, what exactly was she expecting? Kimmy had warned her about it way before, and had she listened to it then, things could have been different.
You ladies come back here and try to cook in your damn stiletto heels.
Thanks to Robin's lack of self-awareness, the red team lost the round.
We asked for something spicy.
I told her 3 times we need to add spice, and it was like she didn't want to listen.
Most viewers think that this is when the bad blood between Robin and Kimmy took shape, but I think it was the incident that happened in the 9th episode.
I'm not pissed off at you. Talk to me. I just want to talk to you.
Chef Ramsay was amazed that two chefs put their heads together and presented such a hideous dish. Poor Kimmy had to face the heat for this too. But Robin just couldn't keep calm. Back at the dorms, she started to bitch about Kimmy, and this turned into a whole different mess.
I didn't call her out up there. Kimmy never takes fault for anything.
You see how the tide turned in just a second? It was supposed to be a team effort, Robin. I found a Reddit post that described this episode as a horror show. Well, that pretty much sums up what happened. But who knows, there may be more times when chefs mess up real bad and blame it on others in the future.